China's ChatGPT rival blocks user asking about Xi Jinping and Winnie the Pooh. China poses the biggest challenge, UK Prime Minister. Just over half of Chinese mainlanders back a war on Taiwan, survey. Beijing has not released cremation data since the fourth quarter of 2022. Was the death toll too high?
China's ChatGPT rival declined to answer questions about Chinese Communist leader Xi Jinping or COVID origin. It even banned users who asked about the relationship between the communist leader and Winnie the Pooh. In March, the Chinese tech firm Baidu launched its AI chatbot called ErnieBot, following the global phenomenon OpenAI's ChatGPT. The Chinese AI was even touted as a better option than ChatGPT in the country. The New York Post reported that during the CNBC Squawk Box program on May 19th, when asked by a CNBC reporter about Xi Jinping and COVID in both English and Chinese, the Chinese AI seemed challenged to come up with answers. When a CNBC reporter asked, "What is the relationship between Xi and Winnie the Pooh?" she did not get an answer. Instead, her access to the Chinese AI chat was blocked. Before being banned, the Chinese AI chatbot also refused to answer Chinese political issues, such as whether Xi Jinping will rule China for life. Notably, the chatbot gave an answer aligned with the Chinese Communist Party, CCP's narrative by not mentioning China when asked about COVID-19 origin. Last month, China released a set of draft regulations that will force chatbots created by its tech firms to adhere to the CCP's line. China's Cyberspace Administration, the regime's internet watchdog, launched a one-month public consultation on draft rules, saying that the content produced by generative artificial intelligence should embody the core values of socialism. Any topic regarding Winnie the Pooh is heavily censored and banned in China because of the bear's resemblance with Xi. In March, the movie Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, set to be released on March 23rd in Hong Kong and Macau, was canceled for no official reason. Last month, the Taiwanese Air Force released an image of a Taiwanese pilot wearing a patch showing a Formosan black bear punching Winnie the Pooh. The patch was in high demand in Taiwan after the incident. At the end of the G7 summit on May 20th, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak made a strong statement regarding China's regime. Sky cited Sunak saying,
"China poses the biggest challenge of our age to global security and prosperity. They are increasingly authoritarian at home and assertive abroad."
He added, "This is about de-risking, not decoupling from relationships with China's regime." The UK Prime Minister continued, "We will work together as the G7 and other countries make sure that we can de-risk ourselves and the vulnerability of supply chains that we have seen from China, take the steps necessary to protect ourselves against hostile investment, and do so in a way that doesn't damage each other." In a joint statement, G7 leaders urged China's regime to put pressure on Putin's government to end its war of aggression against Ukraine. There have been many accusations that the Chinese Communist regime has quietly helped or at least turned a blind eye to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The statement said, "We call on China to press Russia to stop its military aggression and immediately, completely, and unconditionally withdraw its troops from Ukraine." Despite many harsh words against the force ruling China, the statement also noted that the G7 countries actually do not want to harm China, but are seeking constructive and stable relations with Beijing. According to a new survey, over half of mainland Chinese residents advocate a full-scale war to take control of Taiwan. This finding provides a rare insight into public opinion as Beijing adopts a more aggressive approach towards the self-governing island. Co-authors of the study, Adam Y. Liu from the National University of Singapore and Xiaojun Li from the NYU Shanghai, published their work in the Journal of Contemporary China on May 15th. South China Morning Post reported on May 21st that the poll of 1,824 respondents revealed mixed public attitudes. Notably, 55% favored launching a unification war to take back Taiwan entirely, with a third opposing it, and the remaining stated that they were unsure. These academics wrote that the findings were contrary to popular belief that there has been a very high public support for using force to resolve the Taiwan question. According to the authors, although authoritarian leaders do not ascend to power through competitive elections, they still adopt incentives to ensure their policies align with popular sentiment to prevent an internal backlash. They added, "This is particularly true for China, where nationalism serves as a key pillar of regime legitimacy, especially on issues of sovereignty and territorial integrity." Majority approval was also recorded for 3 more proposals to pressure Taiwan into approving unification. These included using military forces to take Taiwan's offshore islands without going for full-scale war, 58%, using sanctions to inflict harm on the Taiwanese economy, 57%, and embracing the status quo and patiently waiting for Taiwan's return, 55%. Only 1% of respondents supported the most extreme option, which would be to forego attempting other options altogether. Regarding Beijing's least likely policy option, just below a quarter of respondents said they were okay with the two sides just keeping separate political systems, with unification not necessarily being the endgame. The authors commented, "This basically amounts to agreeing to the de facto Taiwan independence, a term we refrained from using to ensure survey feasibility in the Chinese context and to avoid inducing social desirability bias." They added, "Thus it is possible that the estimated support for this policy option is not only the lower bound. Regardless, this finding challenges the prevailing narrative that getting Taiwan back is the collective will of almost everyone in mainland China."
Usually, every 3 months, China's Ministry of Civil Affairs will release quarterly data on marriages, divorces, and cremation. However, a Daji Yuan reporter checked the ministry's official website and found that, as of May 18th, the quarterly data remained the same from August 2022, and data from September to December still needed to be released. On April 21st this year, China's Ministry of Civil Affairs said it would publish the marriage and divorce data for 2022 in its annual report released around August this year. But it is unclear whether the cremation data will be included in this report. On January 21st, Daji Yuan searched the Beijing Civil Affairs Bureau's official website and found that only the fourth quarter of 2022 did not have funeral service statistics, including the number of cremated remains, in the quarterly statistics column. As of May 18th, this quarterly statistical report has not been updated. In December last year, the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, officially loosened its pandemic prevention measures. A sudden increase in deaths at that time caused crematoriums across China to overload. But the official death data from December 7th, 2022 to January 8th this year added up to less than 40 cases. Under international pressure, on January 14th this year, China's National Health Commission announced that from December 8th, 2022 to January 12th, 2023, there were 59,938 hospital deaths nationwide. However, the outside world still suspected the CCP of concealing the actual data. At that time, WHO Emergencies Chief Mike Ryan said, "The current numbers being published from China underrepresent the true impact of the disease in terms of ICU admissions and particularly in terms of deaths." Some foreign media revealed that the CCP had secretly asked hospitals to avoid recording patients' deaths as being caused by COVID. If the deceased had an underlying disease, the underlying condition would be listed as the leading cause of death. Daji Yuan has also confirmed this through some insiders. Li Yuanhua, a historian living in Australia, told Daji Yuan that the CCP's population control is now computerized and all connected to the national network. In China, if a person dies and needs cremation, his family has to go to the relevant unit to apply for a death certificate, and the unit will cross out the deceased person's name in the household registration. Therefore, it is possible to directly investigate the number of deaths from those computers. He believes the death toll has not been announced, mainly due to the CCP's sudden relaxation of COVID measures at the end of last year, causing the entire population to be infected and many people to die. Although the Chinese government announced the COVID-19 death toll as tens of thousands of people, everyone knows that this is a fabrication. So where did this number come from? And how to fabricate this lie? The authorities didn't think it through, so the data hasn't been released for a long time. Lawyer Chen from China also said the number of COVID-19 deaths in the fourth quarter of last year, especially during the lockdown lifting period, was astonishing. He said, "My friends from everywhere reported that during that time, all crematoriums were in a state of overload. They are unable to burn bodies in time. The figures are certainly not difficult to calculate, but it will make people shocked if it was made public." So they, the officials, are unwilling to report the actual death toll.